The nicest girl in our friend group was backstabbed by my roommate Kelly, who gaslit our entire group into believing that the nice girl was crazy and clingy and was blowing up her phone to hang out. For weeks my friend group ditched her, hid from her when she knocked on our apartment door, and just tried to ghost her, all while pretending nothing was wrong. I talked to her, told her what happened, and just asked that she toned it down. She explained that my roommate Kelly had invited her and told her to come over all those times and always initiated text conversations. She just deleted the texts to make the nice girl look insane. I called Kelly out on it. She threatened to pull a gun on me, told me to look out, white girl, I'll kick your ass. She was Lebanese, a foot shorter than me and stick and bone. I'm normally not a fighter and fairly non-confrontational, but I was so angry for our nice girlfriend that I told her if she tried I'd pick her up by her throat and watch her feet dangle, and she backed down. Once it got out in our group that she'd done that, she was ostracized and moved out shortly after that. Kelly was generally batshit crazy though. I have so many stories about her. Edit, y'all asked for it? For more crazy Kelly stories. Okay, here's 3, 4, 5 more for you. I'm going to start with my favorite Kelly story to tell anyone. Part 2, Kelly Boogaloo. I first met Kelly because she was my roommate in pseudo-student housing, where they'll pair you with randoms based on who knows what. We filled out forms, but I was never placed with anyone with the same hobbies or interests. However, in the 4-bedroom apartment I was in, I was only with one other person who we'll call R. R and I initially got along great. We had a big falling out toward the end of my lease, but that's unrelated, and we were worried about 2 random people joining our lease because what if they were terrible roommates? R and Kelly went to the same elementary school back in the day and they got along. Kelly often lied for attention, but it was mostly obvious or weird things that didn't hurt anyone, so no one really said anything. However, she left to live with her family in Lebanon sometime between elementary and middle school, and when she came back for high school, she was weird. R only mentioned that she'd wear things for little kids, but nothing else. Kelly had talked to R and said she was going to the same school we were but didn't know where to live. R vouched for Kelly and I trusted her. The night Kelly moved in, I will never forget it. Kelly was probably 5'2", bleached blonde, tan skin, a conventionally attractive cheerleader type for sure. She was laying on the ground cutting her name out of a piece of construction paper and decorating her door, not a regular practice in our apartments, and she was telling me that her boyfriend was going to move in too and she hoped I didn't mind. I shrugged. I mean, I did mind, but I'd just met her and didn't want to come off as a bitch. So I started asking her about him, about her interests, her life, and whatnot. She told me her boyfriend had asked her to marry him with a huge diamond ring, but that it was in the shop for resizing. Her Facebook profile didn't have engaged on it, and there was no announcement that you'd expect. She had no pictures of it at all. She also told me that she seriously loved Justin Bieber. This was when Baby had come out and he still had that preteen Disney image, and that she once went to his concert, and when he heard her singing in the front row, he pulled her up on stage and offered her a record deal. I nodded politely and went to bed. Part 3, the breakup. Shortly after Kelly moved in, she came to me very upset because her boyfriend had broken up with her. I asked her what had happened. She said, well, he found an old message from a guy and got really upset and broke it off. Okay, fair. I asked her to elaborate, and this is the wild tale she came up with. She said she had been modeling in Paris. Again, her hair was so bleached, it was split ends everywhere. She was way too short for modeling, and even though she was thin, she wasn't model thin. Also, she never left the city, and she wasn't able to respond to his texts, so he believed she was cheating. He called the French embassy, her words not mine, in France and told them he was afraid she'd been kidnapped. So the embassy granted him her Facebook credentials, and that's when he went through the messages and saw a message from a year prior where a guy was flirting with her, and he flew off the handle and broke it off. Part 4, the new boyfriend. Kelly moved on very quickly and found a new boyfriend. I don't remember his name, so let's call him Steve. Steve was very nice. He was a typical frat guy. He liked sports, he liked drinking, he liked sex. He met Kelly in the Hooters equivalent in our town where she worked. They got along great at first. However, Steve is like incredibly chill. He smokes weed all the time and doesn't have much to say about a lot of things. But we enjoy having him around because Kelly seemed a lot less outwardly crazy with him around. One night we were out on the balcony smoking, me, Kelly and Steve, and Kelly goes inside to get changed or ready or something. So it's just me and Steve passing a joint. I ask him how the relationship is going and he gives a big exasperated sigh. That good, huh? Yeah, I don't know. Don't tell her, but I'm thinking about breaking it off. I say, why's that? He looks around cautiously and then whispers, I think she's crazy. I narrow my eyes, because of course she is, but also I wanted to know why he thought so. No, he says, like, literally insane. I think she's having her ex follow me. He proceeds to hand me his phone and shows me a number of texts from a number neither of us recognize. Texts detailing what his car looked like, what his license plate number was, what he was wearing, what direction he was turning. But only while he was in our town. Kelly's ex lived 45 minutes away. I told him I'd look into it and see what I could dig up. With 20 minutes of internet sleuthing of 19 to 20-year-old women, we'd found out that it was her. She was following and threatening her own boyfriend, pretending to be her own jealous ex. She had texted from a number spoofing app and had even texted her own phone, as she later showed us, to make it look like the ex was begging her to come back. Part 5, the internet goes down. Bit of background/context. In our apartments, each room came equipped with an Ethernet port so you could hook right in for fast internet. This is well advertised, and I'm pretty sure our units came with 3-foot Ethernet cables. My friend had given me an overclocked router for free when I moved, so I hooked that up and just gave everyone the password. However, it was jank as hell. My friend had literally cut a hole in the top to increase airflow. It was old, and it would just crap out at a moment's notice, but once I reset it, it would be fine for another week or so. So one day, I wake up with this barrage of texts from Kelly. She's calling me a bitch, a hoe, frickin' cracker, I'm sabotaging her education, I'm out to get her, so on and so forth, with threats of physical harm peppered in there. With some groggy and incredulous prodding, it turns out the router went out at 3 a.m. while she was studying for a test she was supposed to take in the afternoon today. Instead of going, the internet is out. That sucks. I guess I'll learn from my book. She launched into an insane tirade where I stayed up. I was known for going to bed at like 10 p.m., waited for her to get home, monitored internet traffic so I knew when she was online, and then turned the router off and ignored all of her texts. I ended up telling her that it wasn't my problem. She could have hooked up her Ethernet cable instead of depending on the shaky Wi-Fi that I provided at no cost for the whole apartment, and that if she really wanted to study, she wouldn't have spent all day with her boyfriend, who was absolutely miserable. I actually ended up convincing him to get out of that relationship, and then spent all night partying. Part 6, the tequila glass. It was my 20th birthday and I'd invited our friend group and maybe 4 extra people to our apartment for a party. I was sloshed. I was 130 or 140 pounds and probably my fifth or sixth cheap beer in, plus whatever shots people were having me take. Kelly takes this opportunity to pull a glass out of our fridge just over halfway full of clear liquid. I'd seen it in our fridge for a few days prior, but never inquired because, well, one out of two of my roommates was insane. She tells me it's very expensive tequila and if I drink the whole thing without puking, she'll buy me a new dress for the club. Now, I grew up poor and with shit self-esteem. I loved going to the club, but all my dresses were not very fun. They were things you could easily wear as a wedding guest and definitely stood out when I wore them to the club. But what she didn't know is that in the town I lived in before, I had a couple years of practice taking down 30 racks of beer with my best friend. I had a liver of steel and a stomach of gold. I made everyone shut up and paused the music. I made her repeat herself in front of everyone. If you drink this tequila and don't puke tonight, I will take you to the mall and I will buy you a dress for the club no matter what it costs. We shook on it. She tried to make me puke on my birthday. She ended up shelling out like $80 for a dress for me. Edit ad, it definitely was tequila, thank God. I recognized the smell and taste before I chugged. I can't remember why it was in a glass, but I think it had something to do with the fact that we were all underage and she snuck it from somewhere. Probably work. Part 7, the breakup. No, the other one. One weekend we were all at our apartment, drinking and smoking on the balcony. It was right after Steve had broken up with Kelly. Kelly had just joined us and basically chugged her first beer. She told us all she'd been so wasted all day because she was sad. She didn't look, act, or smell drunk when she came in, but I've seen people hide it well before. After her second beer she started going crazy mad. Just going on and on about Steve and what's he doing, and I bet he's out with another girl, and I'm like, even if he is, y'all aren't together anymore. It's not your place. She calms down a little bit and we keep drinking. She's attached to her phone, like won't put it down, just staring daggers at it. Suddenly she says, "OP, can you come with me next door? I'm gonna do a pickup." One of our dealers lived next door and the apartment is full of incredibly attractive men, so I'm tipsy and absolutely down. We pop over there and as I ring the doorbell, Kelly leans on the wall out of view of the peephole. I figure it's to look nonchalant. As soon as the door opens, she pops around the corner, shoves her way into the apartment and starts screaming, "Where's Steve? I know his bum ass is in here," to this group of bewildered 20-somethings who were apparently having a small party like we were. There must have been 15 people in this apartment. None of them Steve. So I slink back to the apartment, not eager to be caught up in that mess, and I text Steve telling him if he's in his apartment, just across the hall from the dealers, that he needs to get out, and if he's somewhere else, he needs to stay there because Kelly is on a rampage. He thanks me for the heads up and says he's gonna take off. Well, he apparently exited his apartment as she exited the dealers or something, because I heard shouts from the hall. I peek out and Kelly's got this poor guy against a wall just screaming at him for God knows what. And I go out and block her while he goes to his car. Meanwhile she runs back to the apartment, leans out the balcony and screams at him some more. We come back and tell her to shut up and have a drink, chill the hell out. Part 8, the call. On the same day, after we get back to the apartment and have a few moments of relative peace, she's saying she's going to drive out after him. She knows where he's going and she's going to bring her gun. We honestly don't know if she had one, but that wasn't a lie. I was going to try calling her on. Me and the rest of the table exchange a look and I excuse myself to go to the bathroom. I go inside and take her keys and pocket them and then return to the balcony after a couple minutes. She's still talking about it, and nice girl K are trying to talk her down. Suddenly she gets up shouting about how she's going to go and he's going to get it, etc. etc. Her shouting stops abruptly when she can't find her keys, which she always hangs on her bedroom doorknob. No one else knew I took the keys, but I've got a terrible poker face. She starts screaming and threatening me, but I keep telling her she's not going to drive drunk and she's not going to hurt her ex. She'll get her keys back in the morning when she's sober. She tells me she just wants to go down to the corner store and pick up more beer. She's going to leave her ex alone. I don't give in. She says okay fine, I'm not going, but I do actually want my keys, can I have them back? I say no. Her purse is nearby, she digs in it and pulls out pepper spray and aims it at me. Says if I don't give her the keys she's going to spray me. The other girls are just telling me to do what she says and I don't want to get pepper sprayed. I hesitate, but toss her the keys. She immediately leaves the apartment. I chase after her, contemplating how much pepper spray could actually hurt. I remind her that she told me she wasn't going anywhere. She turned around with the pepper spray again and aimed it at me, and the girls called down from the balcony saying it wasn't worth it and that she seemed fine, she was just being dramatic. So I throw my hands up, okay fine, but I'm going to text Steve, he's not going to be wherever you think he is. She huffs and leaves anyway, peeling out of the parking lot. I go back to the balcony, hopped up on adrenaline and open another beer. Not 5 minutes later, my phone rings and it's her. She hasn't tried to call anyone else, just me, the person she hates the most in the apartment. I answer, hello. I got pulled over. You what? She's sniffling, I got pulled over, the cops are here and they're pulling me over, okay? I don't know what you want me to do about that. Do you want us to come get your car so it doesn't get impounded or something? Ugh. I'll call you back. 10 minutes later, she was back at the apartment, not arrested, with her car. We all asked her what happened and she just said they let her go with a verbal warning. Thanks for listening to this longer video. If you'd like to see more, please like, comment, and subscribe.